All right, for those of you that have not been on before, these are generally open Q&A sessions. So any questions you might have, whether it has to do with respect to your CRM system, your leads, your website, so add-in pages, editing websites, things like that. You do have the open Q&A. You have the chat, as well as if you feel like your question is better asked verbally, you can do that. Now, we do record these sessions as well, so if you do have a question and can't recall the answer, perhaps you have to step out, these are always available after the fact as well. So what I like to do before anyone typically answers questions, and don't be shy, as I always say, a question that you ask is definitely going to benefit other individuals as well. So I just like to kind of start with things and kind of go from there. So one of the things that you guys, most of you should have, or many of you anyway, is going to be campaigns. So Google, Facebook, whatever it may be, kind of campaigns that are targeting various lead types. Now, the leads that are generated should be put on a campaign. So all of them should be auto-assigned to various campaigns. And from time to time, some of us may want to look at those campaigns, adjust them, add them, or perhaps switch up the campaign completely. So let's take a look at that and where you're going to find the campaigns that are going to be automatically assigned to your leads. So when we go into our settings tab over here, we're going to go up to the campaign template editor. So this is where you're going to be able to see all the campaigns that are loaded into your system. Now, do bear in mind, this is a training CRM, so there's going to be multiple campaigns in here. Some are just, random campaigns just for demonstration purposes. Now, for you that want to find the campaigns that are automatically assigned, you're just going to go to the by assignment and just do auto assigned. It's then going to show us the campaigns that are currently sitting with some level of auto assignment. Now, for most of you, you're going to see 3 to 4. You should be seeing 3 to 4 campaigns that are automatically assigned. Those are buyer campaigns, a seller campaign, there's a rental campaign, and a first-time buyer campaign. If you do not have the first-time buyer campaign, you can always reach out to support. They can add it in there for you. That's something that was added after fact for many of you that may be watching here. Now, when we see the auto assigned in here, we can see as well how we're auto assigning these, which we'll go over. So in this case, this is the sources. So if a lead comes in from this source, for example, they're put onto this campaign. This one here has it for a lead type. So if a lead type comes in as a buyer pre-con, for example, it's going to be assigned to this campaign. This one here is tags, so future opportunity, not buying now. And it just kind of goes through the varieties there. So you can see when you're ever looking at anything, how things may trigger. When we have the auto assignment, what that allows you to do is have campaigns essentially auto assign without you doing anything. So for tags, for example, there is the bad number campaign that should be in most of your systems that you can auto assign this campaign based on you adding the tag that they've got the bad number. So that's something that you can also do. Now, many of you are going to have a campaign that looks like this that's assigned to your lead. It's going to say new buyer app link with sold. In some cases, it'll say without sold. It really depends on your board. The difference between these campaigns is just some slight wording within the content based on what your feed is actually sending out to the leads in the system. That's all that differs. Now, if we wanted to take a look at this campaign, or any campaign, you can go into the edit option. And this is whether it's auto assigned to your leads or not. You just go into the edit. It's going to show you that full campaign. Now, again, this is a training CRM, so it's not going to naturally, reflect yours exactly. We can delete aspects. So you can see here, this is duplicated, probably because it was added twice. So if you're ever seeing anything like that, you can always delete actions in here. Now, when we click on the action as well, we're able to see what that involves. So we have the SMS, the first one here. This is the essential of the autoresponder that goes out when your lead registers, acknowledges that registration, lets them, brings awareness as to how they can opt out of SMS communications. This is a requirement, needs to be in there. And then if they wish to download the app, again, trying to encourage them to download the app for everyone's benefit. Now, this goes out regardless of what time the lead registers at, because again, it's like an autoresponder. Now, 5 minutes after that text message goes out, another text message goes out. This one here is coming from you, essentially letting them know that a search has been created. We want to make sure that the listings are correct, and then asks a question about their criteria. Now, anything you're seeing in these brackets here is short code. Okay, so it's pulling, the types of homes that they've looked at in this case and the city that they're most prominently looking at those properties in. This is pulling the URL for your website. We can go over creating these templates as well. So if you are wanting to create things with short codes, you do have that ability to do so. Now, anytime, of course, you can edit this, just being cautious of those short codes because they are case sensitive. So if you make an edit and a mistake within the short code, it will go out saying all property types, just as an example. But you can definitely edit it. Now this one here, because again, this is an automatically assigned campaign, and especially with text messages, and we're having this come to leads that are registering, we want to make sure that we have some sort of silence clause on there, meaning that if a lead is registering between certain hours, these text messages that are more formulated to sound like they're coming from you aren't going out in the middle of the night. Okay, so down at the bottom of any of these actions, you do see a silent hours in here. So silent hours on this one is, and again, I'm in a Western time zone, some Pacific Standard Time. So this would be 9 o'clock at night, 9:30 in the morning. So that if anyone registers after 9 o'clock, this action would not actually go out to the lead until 9:30 in the morning the following day, just to make sure, again, we're not sending people text messages in the middle of the night, acting as if this is an actual person, of course. Now, we do have in here, when you are editing as well, you can choose who the text message is coming from. In this case, is typically the main agent assigned to the lead. Now, you can, so allowing you, if you were to create campaigns or modify them, you can have various actions come from different users within the system. So again, by default, it's the main agent. You can have it coming from, let's say, the mortgage agent. So maybe there's a message in there and then you have mortgage agents on your team and you're assigning them access to different leads. You can have various actions go out on behalf of that mortgage agent. So it looks like the mortgage agent is also communicating through that campaign. You can also specify a specific individual that those messages are coming from. Now, these are the stopping clauses. So the stopping clauses is what's actually going to prevent this text message from going out if a certain aspect is met. So for example, in this case, if we've set a meeting with the lead, signed an agreement, we're showing them, we've sold them or moved them to archive, this action is not going to go out. Okay, so obviously, within 5 minutes, I'd be surprised if we've already set a meeting, but hey, you never know. But regardless, we don't want it going out, if you've already spoke to them, for example. So a lot of them are going to be, from the made contact aspect, not the first couple, but the other, so down below, this one should anyway. Again, trial one, you'll see most of the cases, it'll say made contact, signed agreement, showing sold, that sort of thing. Because again, these campaigns are created to just get the lead to be responsive to us, right? That's the initial purpose of these campaigns. But again, you may want to modify and change them. So in other words, when somebody replies to your text message, or perhaps you speak to them on the phone and you log that call, so their pipeline moves to made contact, or you move their lead rating to hot, warm, or cold, or anywhere past that, it just stops this campaign. So you don't have to remember to turn it off, because again, we don't want to be sounding silly just speaking to somebody the other day and another text message goes out just being like, hey, I haven't heard from you. Meanwhile, we just spoke to the lead. So The pipeline statuses are in place. You can also do stopping clauses based on tag as well for these individual actions. So where this can be beneficial, again, if we're building a full campaign, maybe it's partially to just get the lead to be responsive to us. And then maybe there's actions as well that are more educational, right? So let's say this was a text message and there was a question asking them if they've been pre-approved for a mortgage. Let's just pretend that. We can have it so that if the tag, as an example, if they have the pre-approved tag right here, we can have it so that if the lead, we put the tag pre-approved on a lead, this action would actually just stop. It's specifically this action. The campaign would carry on. It would just recognize, well, we don't need to send this lead a question asking if they've been pre-approved because we already know that they're pre-approved, right? You can do the same for emails and other things as well. So it allows you to really create unique campaigns that, you know, trigger automatically based on various aspects, as well as the campaign entirely can stop based on different actions meant, or you can have it so individual actions each have their own rules as to whether they're going to continue or not. Now, when we're looking at the delay period, so some of us may want to extend these campaigns without adding any additional content to them. And that's what the delay period is. So the delay period is always from the previous action. So for this text message is how long after this email did I want this text message to go out? In this case, we said 1 day. If we wanted it to be 1 week, we can change it to 1 week and update it. So then 1 week after this email, this text message is going to go out. So we can always go in and update that as well. And of course, we have at any time with any of these, you see the plus sign, we do have that ability to add actions in between as well. So if we wanted to throw an email in here, an SMS, maybe we want to assign them to a different campaign and things like that. So if we are adding an SMS or email, that's where I do encourage that we have the templates created. Now, if it's very straightforward and we don't really need a lot of shortcode, or maybe we're very familiar with the shortcodes that we need to be using, maybe you're just using the lead's first name, for example, or an email with the lead's first name in your signature. If we're doing enough of this, a lot of the time we don't need to create the template. The template is beneficial though if you ever want to use it outside of the campaign. So if you want to just send it to a lead in a one-off scenario, that's where your template's going to be beneficial to you. Now let's pretend we just wanted to add another SMS in here. We're going to add that SMS, and then this is where we can type our SMS. The shortcodes are here. So if I click on this, I'm going to have to zoom out because my screen resolution is a lot larger. But here we can see what the shortcodes are when you hover over it. So they are available in here to use. When we are doing this, we have to essentially copy it and then paste it in here, just so you guys are aware of how that works. But if we were to just do it, so again, the first name, let me just zoom back to the normal resolution here. So, you know, for example, if we were to do first name, which is the first name of the lead, and then, you know, whatever your text content is right there, right? And even then, a lot of the times, because they've already had some text messages with their name in them, often enough we don't need to. There's a thread of communication to that person on their cell phone. We typically wouldn't, well, I know I don't. When I text people all the time, I'm not every time I'm sending them a text message, I'm using their name because they know who the text is. Like it's just not as formal, so to speak, right? So we can always just have the text, and then if you wanted to have your name, that's agent first name is what that is. So you have first name, which is the lead's first name. Agent first name is your first name, or whoever's sending the text message's first name in this case. So if we were to put this together, or you selected a template, you can always have a template and create it as well. You then set the rules for that. So if there's a specific stopping clause, whether it's a tag or pipeline status, the delay period, and again, if we wanted silent hours on this actual action. So let's say we wanted to throw this in there, that was 5 minutes, and I want this one to go out, you know, 1 day later, maybe 1 hour later, whatever it might be. And then we're going to go save. Now, with the silent hours, some of you may want to play safe and put silent hours on all of your SMSs. If you have two SMSs back to back, for example, so if, let's say this one here is going out and this message has silent hours, right? So we can see here, the silent hours are in place. Well, this message here is going to go out exactly one day after, right? So we don't necessarily need to put the silent hours on this one because this one's already following the silent hours within the system. So, periodically you may want to add it in if you feel more comfortable and you want to make sure and ensure that, each one goes within specific time frames you can. You can also kind of set it so that the messages aren't always going out at like 9:30 in the morning by adjusting the silent hours to maybe a little bit later, right? So maybe it's from 9 o'clock till 11 o'clock on that one SMS, so the text message goes a little bit later than the text message before, so it doesn't look as automated, if that makes sense. Now, if we're editing these, or maybe we'll want to adjust the automatic assignment. So whether you're creating a campaign or editing or using an existing campaign, you have the automatic assignment here. And so that's what's going to automatically trigger. So again, when we have the campaign, we can have automatic stopping clauses, whether it's on the campaign entirely or on the individual actions, and essentially to the entire campaign. Same goes when we have the automatic assignment as when the lead comes in or thereafter, how we're assigning this campaign. So instead of having to go in and manually assign this campaign to your leads, you can have the system just do it based on various actions. Now, you do have different triggers. So there's two different ways to trigger. One is only at registration and imports, meaning it's only at the time the lead hits your CRM system that if it matches any of the qualifiers you set, they would be put onto this campaign. If you do it as always, that means that any time any of these actions are met, the campaign would automatically trigger. Okay, so if it's always, for example, let's say we have the first time buyers campaign. So in this case, there's nothing selected as far as that. It's the tag that's triggering that. So if at any time you add the tag, just as an example, first time buyer to your lead, whether again, they fill out that questionnaire indicating that they're a first time buyer, or after in a conversation, they let you know and you tag them as a first time buyer, that would automatically trigger the campaign to turn on at that point. Now, you can also do it. So, one of the things that you may want to do as well is, I'm just going to take that off, is have different campaigns for different agents. So maybe if you're a part of a team or you want to maybe test two different campaigns out based on team members, different variances, you have that ability. So let's say there's one campaign, this one here is for the lead type buyer, right? So it's for the home buyers only. And then let's say I only want this specific campaign to trigger if it belongs to Shauna Test. So if a lead comes into my system, or let's do that at only registration, if a lead comes into my system, they're a buyer and they're assigned to Shauna, so maybe you have lead sharing set up and they're assigned to Shauna, then this campaign is going to trigger. And then maybe you have another one that is like they're a lead type of home buyer and you have another agent who's a different campaign, maybe they want to use something different, you can have it so if those both qualifiers are met, then that campaign triggers. So you can be quite unique and specific. Again, sources, a lot of us create different sources for doing custom campaigns, whether it's like a Facebook campaign, things like that. Sources may also be good if we're importing a database, let's say, and we change that source. I would do it kind of after if you're not ready, if your campaigns aren't ready to always, but maybe if somebody comes in from a specific source that you've allocated at the time you've imported them, then you can have different campaigns trigger as well. So it's a great and unique way to, customize your campaigns and have them working for you. right? Again, a lot of your initial campaigns, especially on the buyer campaign, is very SMS heavy. Maybe you want to add some additional emails in there to really try to use different various avenues, because we are obviously calling our leads, we're texting our leads, they're getting listing emails from you, but maybe we want to add in a couple emails. It's just, thanking them for registering. Can I be doing anything for you? Or I just want to check in to make sure everything's okay. Again, various avenues to try to get the leads to be responsive to us in there. So that is your campaign section. Now, does anyone in here have any questions with respect to your campaign section? So whether it is anything that we just reviewed or anything outside of that. If you just need a little bit of clarification on something. Again, for anyone that's joined after we just started here, you do have the Q&A. You have the chat, as well as if you feel like your question's better asked verbally, you do have that as well. You can raise your hand. What are sources? So the source, that's a great question. So the sources, so when we look at our leads here, the dashboard, so the source of your lead is telling us where the lead came from. Okay, so now we also have the ability to create sources as well. So for most of you, you're going to see a few different things. One, you're going to see your website URL, right? Maybe you have two websites. You might see the search website. So one might be your lead gen website, your unbranded one. One might be your branded one. So you might see both of those in here. Some of you might see AL, Google, PPC, Brampton, or whatever it might say, indicating that it's a kind of a unique source. But that's also how you can differentiate where the leads, which campaign the leads are coming from. Are they coming from your Brampton campaign, your Mississauga campaign, your Caledon campaign, that sort of thing. So sometimes it'll say like AL, Google, and then a city, for example, or something along those lines. Those are leads that are generated through your campaigns. You will see some, if you guys are doing Facebook, there's often they'll create something Facebook, so FB, whatever it is, again, so you can see that that lead came from there. And you do have the ability as well under your settings to create your own sources. So understanding when we're adding a lead into our system, where that lead came from in the first place. Were they a referral? Were they from an open house? Sphere of influence? If you still recall, because some of us have older lists, but if we ever did want to change the source on a lead or add it in there, again, you would create the source if it doesn't already exist. And then over, like under the lead, for example, down at the bottom, you have the source. Okay, so then we can select which source it is that we have. I'm just going to do source as the source that we have created for that individual that we may want to add. And then it does show up on the main page. So if we scroll down to Abigail now, we can see that that source has been added. And if I wanted to pull up anyone from a specific source, so let's say networking, and I click on this little magnifying glass right here, it's going to add it as a filter item. So if I want to pull up all my leads that have that networking source, I can click apply and preview, and I can see now there's 4 individuals in here that have that as their source. If we want to mass add a source, so some of us may have a list of leads in here that we've imported and it doesn't have a source, and there's multiple from the same source, or maybe all of them are from the same source and you're aware of that, you can actually go and select, the whole page, select all your leads or individual ones, essentially. And in your apply actions, you do have the ability to set the source. You can do it as a mass action where we're now saying, okay, these leads here are both the source, and then it would just switch over. So if I just change that to Crystal, for example, we're going to see, it'll take a second, but we'll see that both of those will change to Crystal as the source. And of course, as you're adding a new lead as well, you do have that field option as well. Yes, you can change that. So Burgess is asking, can I change it if my domain is changed? Yes, you can, if you feel it's necessary to. It's just allowing you to recognize that they originally came off that source. But you can definitely change it if you feel it's necessary to change it. It's not going to have any effect unless you have triggers associated with that previous campaign. The lead, will it affect the lead searching? No. So if you change the source of, the individual, their searches are still going to be set up. So for example, if we go into Vince here, I know he's got a search kind of set up in here. Nothing's changed in here because he originally signed up. As long as the source, that website still exists, their listings are still going out. The source is where they came from. So it doesn't, unless it serves like a specific purpose to you to change that source after, it's not really necessary to, because you know that they came from your website. It's just a matter of what website. And oh, this lead here came from this website that I had like 3 years ago, but I've changed the domain name. You can change the domain name if you want to in the source, essentially, but they're still getting the listings through whatever website they're getting the listings from. This is just to kind of pull and group individuals together. But no, this is not going to change their searching capability on there. So Georgiana asks, is there a way to organize the campaign so I can easily find the ones I have created? There is not really an easy way to do that with the ones that you've created. You can do it by created date, right? So, or you can sort them by name. So if you wanted to, if you were to change all of your campaigns, for example, we do this as ascending, all your campaigns to have, let's say, an asterisk in front, or a number. Actually, you won't be able to do an asterisk, you can't do special characters. But if, let's say, you have a number, 1 in front of all of your campaigns, then, or the name of your campaigns, when you go in and edit it, let's say with the campaign name, you would just change it so it has a 1 there or whatever it is. Then when you're having it, if you're sorting them by name and ascending, you can see which ones you've created because they'll all be showing first. You do, of course, have the ability to search by keywords as well. So if you recall what you named that campaign, then you can also search them that way. But it would be, almost kind of going in and editing the title so that you can sort them by name. And then that would be one way to easily find them. And any additional questions surrounding campaigns or the sources? No? All right. So as I mentioned in here, I think this is something that I reviewed either last time, the time before, is you do have that ability to create the templates, right? So whether it's an SMS template or an email template, you do have that ability in here. This allows you to send, kind of like select and send. So you can always add a new template in here. You give your template a name. You can create it as a personal template or a company template. If you are a sub-user in somebody's CRM and you do not have admin rights, you're only going to be able to make a personal template. The company template, so what this means for the majority of you that are like just the account holders here, or solo agents, the company template means that if you create a template, it's usable across all your users. So all your users will see it in the template list. If you create it as a personal template, it's personal to the user account that created it, meaning not everyone can use it, essentially. So if we're typically creating things unless otherwise specified, we create them as company templates because, again, in many cases, you want all your agents, or if you grow and have agents join your team, you would want them to be able to utilize the templates that you're creating in many cases. So when we create this in here, again, we have the lead shortcode. This is just drag and drop, right? So just prevent error. This one's a little easier, just drag and drop it over. So this all has to do with the leads information. You do have your agent shortcodes. In most cases, it is the sender. So agent first name, that sort of thing. So, it'd be like, hey, Crystal, is agent first name here, or agent first name, agent last name here. Thank you for signing up on my website. Something along that. You do have elements. So this would be if you were to type, for example, good, and then we would pull this over add a space and maybe first name, it would change it to either morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on the time of day this message goes out at. Okay. You have the activity shortcode. So this is now relevant to people that have been looking at listings. So whether it's at the time of registration or any time thereafter, again, the website has cookies. It's tracking what they're doing, right? So we can have these messages going out looking like, we're still, it's specific to them, but maybe we even send it as a mass or it's part of a campaign, but it's always changing depending on the person, right? So say, good morning, Crystal. I noticed that you've been checking out some listings in Mostweed City. Right? Are you guys just window shopping right now? Or are you guys planning a move for down the road? Right? So again, we're allowed to, customize these to make it, and it would automatically pull the city again that person was, prominently looking at. So you do have some here that you can utilize, right? That you can create those. So that has to do with the listings that they're viewing on your automated site. These are website registration codes. You typically don't need them. The app one here, this would just include the app link. So every user or lead in your system, I should say, has a unique app link associated with their account. So this automatically populates that lead that you're sending it to, their account link there. So that is essentially how you're creating your SMS. Of course, you're going to go down and make sure you save it. When you're doing the same, you have, of course, the same with email, right? It's the same concept. You're creating an email template. It's a little different. We're creating it in here. When you do have the shortcut, I'm just going to edit this one here. The only thing that's different is in the sender data. So with the sender data, you have the signature, right? So obviously in an email, you have that ability to, put your signature at the bottom, which I do encourage that you guys do. Again, simply because if you become a team or others, or you are a team, or you end up with a buyer's agent, if you're using short codes, that means they're going to be able to use it, right? Meaning that if they send it out, it's going to replace that with their signature, not your signature. A lot of the times the solo agents I see, and again, if you're going to maintain and retain, stay that way, being a solo agent. But what I'll see is they'll just throw their signature in the actual email itself, right? So rather than using the short code for it, they throw it in here. If I was to send that, let's say as a sub user, and let's say you created that email, I'm sending the email and it has your email signature in it, not my email signature, right? So it just becomes habits. Really, when you guys are in here, you do have a question mark up at the top. This is your video and help section. So there is videos and how-tos all sitting in here, relevant to where you're currently sitting in the platform. Okay, so just so you guys are aware, in there's the tutorials as you're jumping through the system. Now, again, with creating templates, you can, of course, use them as campaigns. It allows you to quickly build them. It also is going to allow you to send things one-off, right? So if I wanted to send an email, this leads it, for example, a template that I already created, I can just simply go and, select the template I want. I can preview it, whatever it might be, and send it off to that person. Same goes with the text messages as well. So you have right here is the template. So if we select this, this allows us, so if we're custom, let's say, maybe we're sending and we're doing different mass blasts and things, we're getting the responses, or maybe we just want to check in on people, we can just simply select the text and send it to somebody without having to write that whole text out every single time. So that's another benefit of having those templates already created in your system. And then again, you can use them for mass actions as well. So if you have, the texting, if you have the Twilio, you can of course send the mass SMS to your leads. And so it's always encouraged that you use a template where you've drag and dropped to prevent errors. I've done errors myself. It's embarrassing when you do it. Mass email, same idea. You have that template that's already created rather than typing it up on the go. Now, it's not, 100% necessary. It's just safer. That's all. Just safer. The benefit with the mass email when you're sending it, so the one benefit, if I was to select all these people and send a mass email, the one benefit in the I guess the safety net is basically I have the ability to send a test to myself first, meaning I could spot through that test if I made an error with one of my short codes, right? I would be able to see it comes to me. It says when I receive it, it's going to say this link, for example. That means I got the link there, the short code wrong. If we're sending it as a mass SMS, there is no send test to yourself. Okay, so it's going to go out saying, hi, first name, is what it might do. One thing you can do is instead of, let's say, selecting all of them, you select one lead. Okay, you select one lead and you go to send that mass text message. You would be able to see, and I'll just pick a random one here again. You would be able to see the short code. Well, it should show. So usually it would say their first name here because I'm only saying it to one people, but I guess they only do that with the email. So nope, you can't even safeguard yourself. So that's where it's 100% make the template for the SMSs, especially if you're intending on mass messaging them, unless you do a really good quick check over or you send it to yourself first, right? So if you have an account in here with a different number that you can send yourself text messages or at least see how it delivers, then you know that you haven't made any mistakes with respect to the short code that's going out. The most common one is somebody holds shift while they're doing the hard bracket and it's a soft bracket. Not going to work. You'll go out saying first name in that case, if that's the one that you're using. But the mass text is a great way in here to reach a lot of your audience all at once. And again, when we are sending a mass text message, you do want to keep it. So just as you guys, I'm just going to go select all. If I want to send a mass SMS, you're going to get a warning. Okay. If it's over 200 people, you can see here I have 323 people that I've selected and I want to send a mass text message, the system is warning me. It's highly encouraged that you don't do that you keep it under 200 contacts at a time. That's going to keep you under the radar. Okay, so it's not going to flag your phone number if it's under 200 people at a time. Or create awareness around your phone number to I guess government bodies is how we can look at that. Now, with respect to mass texting, it's a great way to stir the pot with some individuals and figure out exactly where they're at in the process, and process of elimination as well. Right. So maybe you want to find all your old leads or leads that you haven't communicated with in a while, and you just want to send them all a text message. Right. So you do have your various filter items in here. So we add the filter items. So we can do, I want everyone that either, for example, registration, we can choose, right? Was it between specific days, or maybe it was like they registered this year, or maybe they registered last year, or all before a specific date, or maybe you want to register everyone that registered within the last 365 days, for example. So if we want registration is 365 days, that means everyone that registered, within the last year. So Burgess is asking, yes. So anything above for the mass text messages, you can do them the same day. It's just not at one. You can do it the same day, but just in two different shots is what you're going to want to do. So break it down, whether you break your page. So typically what I would do is make my page 50. That way I know I did page 1 and page 2. Or I add a mass tag to the ones that I did, before I send it, I add it and then I exclude them the next time. So there's all different ways that you can do it with ensuring that you're not sending them all that message all at once, past the quota of 200. But if we do this, so kind of going back, these are all the leads that then registered in the last 365 days. You can see there's 68 people in here. Maybe we want people in here that we have not talked to, right? So again, this goes back into your using your system, logging your calls and using it for SMSs. This is where it really becomes a benefit. So, was not contacted. So let's say maybe we haven't sent these people or called them or sent them a text message in, let's say, the last 60 days. So all leads within the last 60 days, for example. We can apply and see that. Now we're down to 53 people. Maybe now we want to pull up the people that have just been active. And maybe they're, and again, everyone's list is different. So maybe it's the people where their last activity in property view is anyone within the last, let's say this year. Maybe everyone this year that was looking at listings that registered within the last 365 days that we haven't contacted. That brings us down to 48 people in here. Now we can definitely continue to do, so again, this is a call list. Of course, this is a bad number. So, and we're sending a text message, right? So maybe we want to make sure that their phone validity is either unknown or valid, meaning that if we've marked their phone number as invalid, it's not even going to attempt, they're not going to pull in here. So now that brings us down to 37 leads. I can drop this one. I can go, this is invalid. We're going to drop to 36 leads just by doing that. So these now are people that have been active with looking at properties this year. We haven't contacted my phone or SMS in the last 60 days, and the registration is 365. Now, we may also want to sort these people out based on those pipelines as well, right? So maybe we only want to make sure, so let's just say these are, so the pipeline here is only people that are on not set, new lead, try to contact, non-responsive. Maybe you make contact with them. You may want to do these ones as well. Probably not your hot people you should have been reaching out to, more than 60 days, but you might want to include them just to see them. But kind of going, if we wanted to add them in there. So we apply preview. That brings us down to 30 people. And again, we can select all of them, right? This is because I got 50 per page. We can also select a page, for example, let me just bring this down to, 10 people per page so you guys can see. Maybe I select this whole, let's just select all those. Okay. I do this 10 page. So you can see when I go to from each page, it only selects 10 of them. Maybe I want to go through, make sure I actually do want to send it to these individuals. Maybe I want to unselect ones that I don't want to send it to, but I can do that for each page, right? So I can go back to the top, go like this and say, maybe this is for someone that here I've marked as hot and ready. I know who they are. Maybe I don't want the text to go. Maybe I'm like, I'm going to make a mental note. I'm going to call them ahead instead. I don't want to send a text. And so we can, unselect individuals. Once we've selected them all, that's when we send that mass text, right? So then we send the mass text to these individuals. And it could be as simple as, hey, Crystal, are you still looking for a home in, Most Food City? Or, hey, Crystal, it's been a while. How's that home search? Did you end up finding anything yet? Right? So it's different ways. And really the goal a lot of the time to that is just to get our leads to respond to us, right? Get someone, responding in some capacity. Sometimes they're going to respond, great, I already found something. Okay, great. Again, if you have access to sold listings, offer them that, right? Like, oh, that's excellent. That's amazing that you were able to find something. Would it be of benefit to you to receive the sold listings in your neighborhood so you can stay on top of the values of the homes and what they're selling for? A lot of people will say yes to that. So again, you may not have won them the first time around, you're getting them the second time around. Again, if they've already purchased, you can offer them Street Match. If you don't have the sold listings, you can still offer them. Would you benefit you to get a notification when any one of your neighbors' homes get listed for sale? That way you can monitor the activity in your neighborhood. If you have any questions about the homes when they sell, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to provide you that information. Right? So there's different ways that you can do that. Some people are still looking, great, right? They might not have been active in here, but they're still looking. Right? So if they're not active in here, then that's something that you can do. Okay, well, that's awesome. You can try to get some more information from them. Obviously, through text message. Well, I have here originally that you were looking in, Oakville between 1.2 and 2.2. Does that still sound about right? Whatever it might be to try to get them to respond to you. Or maybe you just want to jump around calling. You know what? No, thanks for getting back to me, Kabir. I'm going to shoot you off your listing. I just sent you off your listings right away based on the previous criteria that I had for you. Let me know that you got them okay. Or follow up and say, did you get them okay? Because they're not active anymore, right? So These emails could be going into their spam. Another thing that we may want to look at as well is the frequency of those emails. Okay, so sometimes it'll be, so you can see here, the frequency is now biweekly because I haven't actioned emails. So maybe if they're still looking, we want to make sure and go into those leads and edit and make sure the scheduler that now we're going up to once a day again, and then updating that because they said that they're still looking, right? So we want to get them. Then we can kind of look at their search. We already know what they had previously, but we have that ability to shoot them off the listings. Right? We can force these out. Say, great, I just sent you the listings based on, the last batch of listings based on what I originally had for you with respect to your search for a house in Ajax. I'll follow up with you a little bit later. I'll call you a little bit later, but is there any information or any criteria that we want me to adjust right away? Now, different ways that you can handle those leads 100%. But that's just one way to stir the pot with older leads, and kind of figuring out who should I focus my efforts on first, right? Because a lot of us have, large lists and things like that. So it's kind of stirring the pot. Shabana is asking, is there a way for me to also receive the listings when they are sent listings in their area? The only way that you can do that is essentially by adding your email here. So if any of the leads that you're doing, if you want to monitor, there's different ways that you can. So I'm going to show you. So buyer, well, let's pretend it's here. You're just going to comma separate and add your email in there. You're going to get emailed all the listings now, not just specifically the sold ones or specifically the active ones. You are going to also be CC'd on all the listings that they're receiving. Okay, so just be aware of that. You can't pick or choose. Or any communications. You're sending them a communication, you're going to be CC'd on that. Another thing that you can do, and again, you can always see in the emails which listings were sent to somebody, so you can always view that, right? So we can always see anything that was sent to this individual. Another thing that you can do is tag them, right? So if we want to tag somebody that we want to monitor, there should be in your CRM system a monitor activity tag. You could do that. So then maybe you have people that you're monitoring activity. We can go in, for example, again, using the filters at home and use the filter for tag where you're monitoring. You can even save that filter. So for example, if I wanted to save this as new, you would use that. That's one way to do it. Another thing that you also have the ability to do is in your lead alert. So this one here, when a lead becomes active after 4 hours. So this is where you monitor their activity, essentially. Most of you have this toggled off because unless you're actually checking all of these notifications every single day, they just become redundant and we start to ignore them, right? So here, what we can do is put this on select leads only and save it. So when you have that on select leads, and it might do it for us right away, of course, it's those things when you're in a session, it just decides to not work the way you want it to. There we go. So then you can receive lead alerts for that specific person. Okay, so any person in your system. So when you select it, so if I'm monitoring Crystal here, and I want to get an alert. So by this, anytime they are active on a website, if it's been within 4 hours of each other, you're going to get a notification that they're active. Right, so that could also, get you to go in. Not only you can look at what they were looking at on the website, if they looked at anything. You could also look at the emails. Obviously they were on the website if you got that notification, but you could also see everything that was sent to them as well when they were doing that. Or if they open it. Sometimes people open emails, but they're not clicking on anything. Right, but if we're receiving their lead alerts and something, and we're kind of going through and noticing that habit of them opening emails but not actually doing anything, that's an indication that they're either not ready or we're sending them the wrong information. So there's no reason for them to click on anything that you're sending them, right? So that would constitute a phone call. Check in on them, make sure everything is good in that sense of things. But that's how you would get those listings in their area. So any questions for anyone with respect to, you know, the filters, the mass texting, things like that? There is, some of you may have done the treasure hunt. There is a treasure hunt that's very similar to this, how I just kind of set it out here. That is for, you know, reaching out to your older leads. You know, are you still looking for a home in Most Huge City? Of course, you can modify that to say whatever you want. You can pull people up, you know, based on registration and do them in groups. Another thing that you may want to do as well is add a lead type. You can see here I have home sellers and home buyers. So it's just adding that lead type filter so that you, obviously how you communicate with a buyer and a seller is also different, right? What we're asking them essentially. So you can do, you know, if I wanted to pull up all my home sellers in this case, there's only one, right? But if I was kind of doing a task and sending, hey, are you still looking for a home in we don't really know, because likely the search for this home seller is set up to receive, you know, listings around their house, not necessarily where they want to be moving to, right? So again, we can filter these out even further. The clicked and delivered. So yes, Georgiana. So in an email, so we do have our different statuses. So if we open, I'm just going to remove this one so we have more people. So when we have our statuses here, the clicked and delivered. So we'll just look at this one. They're all going to say deliver because this is very recent. Let's just go based on activity here. All right. So Shiraz has probably looked at a listing because, again, he was active. So we can see opened, 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 delivered, opened, opened. If they're clicking onto something in the email, so let's say you send, no, if I say click for some reason, if you send them an email, and let's say in your email, you're like, hey, go visit this is, let's say you're sending them an email this way, right? You're clicking on their email, you're composing them an email, and in that email is a link to something. If they click it, the system is capturing, yes, they clicked on something inside the email, right? So whatever action you had in there for them to engage in, essentially they engaged. They didn't just read your email, they engaged in that email. If they just opened it, that means they just opened it. They opened that email, they didn't click on, you know, they just read it. If it's delivered, that means it's delivered to their inbox, right? So it essentially just got delivered. Now this one here, he was actually active 22 hours ago, but this email here was opened 11 days ago, which to me is saying that he knows the URL for the website, because he's just going onto the website, looking at listings, not actually clicking on the email itself, right? Based on this is sent, yeah, so opened 11 days ago in there. So that's the difference between the opened, the clicked, delivered. Delivered means it's received by the recipient. Opens means they've opened that email. Clicked on means they engaged in that email to a capacity of a link that's found in there. Burgess, is there a set filter for lead in the list is showing too many properties, which I don't want to send? How can I shortlist nice ones only? So that, it really comes down to your filters, right? So they should only be getting listings that are new, that are coming up on the market that match their criteria. So if they're getting a huge list of homes, then we might want to refine their criteria a little bit more. The only other way to do this is you could only do it is to manually send them listings every single day. So I wouldn't necessarily, you know, do that, because if you have a lot of leads in your system, it's just calling for failure. Let's put it that way. So if we are, the only way that you could do to send them handpicked listings on a daily basis, you can. So what I would encourage is set them up on lists. The list is here, or this one doesn't have listings. They've turned it off, that's why. So set them up to receive the automatic listings. What I would do yourself is know and be aware of what they were sent, right? So you can go in, know what their criteria is. You can go into your website, look at them, then send them handpicked listings. Hey, you know, did you see this listing? this listing here, I really quite, think it matches everything you're telling me. We don't want to prevent ourselves in many cases from sending people. Obviously, our clients and our leads are very different. Some of them are like, do not set me on the list. Send me everything you think I should be seeing. Some people are definitely like that. But we also don't want to not send them something and then find out this property that you never showed them because you didn't think that it's something worthwhile showing them, right? That's just an outsider's take on that scenario. But you do have a handpicked listing, right? So if you wanted to pull up everything that matches their criteria, you can do this weekly, was listed, days on market, 7 days or less kind of thing, and then kind of go through them. You can definitely do it that way. So if I was just to do this, for example, kind of added all the criteria, and I can select listings. So I can select this listing and this listing and this listing and this listing, and then I can customize an email to them. So I can, here's my hand-picked listings. You can write whatever you want. You can add formatting to make it stand out. And then those listings are going to go out to them like that. So that's your hand-picked. I wouldn't, again, stop them from seeing properties because you never know. But you may want to just add more criteria to really narrow down to make sure you're sending them the appropriate listings. If we go into the more details here, you're also able to see what they've been looking at. So this guy is looking at some sold listings, seeing what they sold for, right? But we can also see in here their behaviors and activities. What is actually interesting them as they're going in here. Maybe we can see how many times, in the photos. If that, and maybe they looked at the listing 3 times, they viewed it 3 or 4 or 5 times, and there's a magnitude of photos that you can see they looked at, or maybe they like this listing, that's your indication there that there may be some interest in that property. So we can actually select the listings they've already viewed and send them back to them. I'd say, hey, Crystal, I noticed that I noticed this listing. Have you had a chance to view it? I really think it, it ticks a lot of the boxes. Meanwhile, you may have already seen that activity in there. You can't do it with sold listings, though. You can only do it with the active ones on here. So that's another way that you can go about is looking at what they're looking at and engaging in, and engage with them. Excuse me, reflective of that activity in here. So nice one. Yes, you can copy MLS numbers and nice ones, so you can do that again in the hand-picked as well. But again, if they're an active person, what you feel I should be seeing versus what's available, and I find out afterwards, me as a consumer, I would be upset with my realtor, 100%. Like, that's just me. Unless I specifically said only show me properties that are this, and this, and then causing my realtor to really handpick. But a lot of consumers out there are going to want to see it all and make that decision as well for themselves. We can then handpick those listings that we feel best match what it is that they're looking for, kind of guide them down that way. But yes, I personally would want to receive all of the listings that match my generalized criteria. And then if I need to narrow it down further, then still be narrowed down further, or unless I was requesting specific listings being sent to me. So click, yes. So Georgiana is asking, with respect to the emails, clicked is also opened. Yes, they opened and then clicked the email inside. Yes, so opened and clicked are essentially the same thing in the sense that they opened it. Clicked just means that they've engaged in that email itself. There. Perfect. There we go. All right. So any more? I'm just trying to look to see here. Short lifestyle, live. You can also do, so another thing, what you can do, Burgess, is if you're setting somebody up on here, again, the criteria, if we go, let me find somebody that is active that has a search. Active, this person doesn't have a search anymore. All my stuff, let's pretend it's this one. Is when we're setting somebody up on a search, so let's pretend this is a seller lead, so it's, listings around the home, is we can do a filter for, days on market right there. So when we're first setting somebody up on a search, right, this obviously is very specific. It's got a radius. I can, days on market is anything that is less than 60 days on market, for example. This list is going to be huge because it's all at the board. So, 12 out of 1,500 because I haven't entered anything, but I have that ability. So if somebody's criteria is very, very vague, very wide open, again, maybe it's just a type of home and a location, anything under a certain price point, right? We may want to indicate that. So if we have the price, for example, the list price is let's say anything less than, let's say $1 million. That's a detached that's been less than 60 days on the market. It's still going to probably shoot 1,500, right? But if we wanted to do this with everything that was listed in the last 7 days, 932 listings that were listed in the last 7 days under $1 million. Again, they're likely going to have more criteria. Maybe it needs to be 3 bedrooms. Maybe it needs to do, whatever. But when we're originally sending them their first batch, then it's going to send them everything based on days on market. So if it's everything less than 7 days on the market, but then moving forward, they're still going to get everything that's coming new on the market because it still falls within under less than 7 days. It's just that initial batch that you're sending them is going to be reduced to the most active listings. So anything, let's say within the last 30 days, things like that. They're not the stale properties that have just been sitting there for, that create some questions surrounding why they've been sitting there for so long, that sort of thing, right? So that's one way that you can narrow it down. But again, they only get a listing email if there's something new that matches their criteria entered. They're not getting emails every single day. So that's where, unless they're very vague criteria, they're going to be receiving a lot of listings. But if it's more specific to, again, what they're looking for, and again, then you shouldn't have to worry too much about them being overwhelmed with the number of listings that they're getting in there. I'm just going through. Yeah, the age of the home is tricky because it's not a required field. That's where it's tricky, right? So it's not, especially, on Trevor, it's not a required field, the age. Most people have it in there, but it's not required all the time. So that's where it can be tricky. But you do also have older houses that are really nice as well, right? Unless someone's specifically looking for a home that's, within 3 to 5 years. Yeah, it can be tricky with people that are looking for homes based on age. That's for sure. All right, just kind of going through. Any more questions while we're in the listing kind of area that anyone has? Criterias? No? Mohammed, you raised your hand. Sure. If you have the ability to talk, you just have to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you listen to me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hi, thank you very much. I don't have the full CRM. I just have the, basic one. So what you were talking, I used to have it, then I dropped it now. So if I
Okay.
have to set up something, to send to the way you were describing, that we select properties and send back to the clients. So how we can do it in this situation when I don't have a full
You're on
CRM, I
the,
just have the website.
oh, okay. So you're on the legacy system.
I don't know what it is. I have all the details and everything, but I don't see any activities of my client because you have to use
Okay.
a non-branded website, and I am
Well,
only
yeah, you just
using.
need to be on the audit, like on the new program, like the new platform, essentially. You can see, so basically when you're on the legacy program, the leads are registering to look at listings. They're not registering to sign up for listings. That's one of the bigger differences. So you're able to still see, and I'll try to just clear these filters out. Anyone that does register on your website, there's no one in here, but you'd still be able to see their activity on your branded site. So if you hover, it shows 0, Okay. But when you
Yeah,
hover over it,
because
it
I
would
used
still
to
show
have it.
you.
I used to have it because I'm with this agent locator for more than 3, 4 years. Then I
Mhm.
dropped it. I cut down because not a good business nowadays. So, but like, show me how I can do it here.
Yeah. Yeah, you betcha. I'm just going to find somebody that doesn't have listings set up, this person. So I just got to edit the email to be valid. That's all. Crystal. There. So if you're on the legacy system, you're not going to have like this whole portion is just this, like it's not there, right?
Yeah.
So what you're going to do is you're actually going to go to, if you want to send somebody listings, is go to the e-campaign section. And when you
Mm-hmm.
select the campaign, you're doing the automatic prospect match. Okay.
Okay.
So when we hit that, then we're going to go assign. We're going to go yes. And then what we're doing from here is now it's assigned, but now we have to tell a system what listings to send. So we're going to click on automatic prospects match, and then you're going to click on this V2. This is going to allow you to then to set up which listings we're now sending this person.
Oh, I got it.
Okay, so then we can do city, for example. So when you enter the city name, what I recommend, so let's just do Toronto, just start typing it, go show options and select it from the list. Just make sure
Yeah.
the accuracy is there. List price, you're going to do 2, unless you're just doing 1 equal to a lighter, less than. So if we're
Yeah, I
doing,
got you. I got you. I understand what you're saying. Like
yeah,
now, if I do this thing for one person, like I have X amount of leads, so I just want to give them, weekly basis. For example, between 800 to 1.2 million properties
yeah,
in Mississauga. How I can send them together, like to all my clients in one stock. Do I have to
you
do it one by one?
you would have to do
Uh,
it one by one. Yeah, you'd have to do it one by one. The only other way that you might be able to do it is actually have a page on your website where you edit the page to be a listings page and you put the criteria in there, so that you say this page only reflects all the listings in Mississauga, price between, this price range and this price range,
what should I
detachment.
have? Page?
Yeah, you would have to build it out in your website, create a page with listings. So just to kind of show you, in your
Okay.
website, you would
Yeah.
go here and click on your website name. You would click on website editor. You would add a page essentially. I'm going to do it on an existing page just so you can see.
Yeah.
Essentially, community pages are pages with listings. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
going to choose Mississauga here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you have a page with listings, you're selecting which listings are presented on this page. So when we do
Mm-hmm.
select listings, it's going to give us the ability to add the filters for which listings are
Yeah,
presented
I
on this
got it. I
page,
got it. Yeah, I got it.
right? So then once we have that page created, then we can send them this link. Here, go here to receive all the listings in Mississauga that are priced under or between
Yeah, yeah.
right? So you can create those pages within your website for that purpose. Otherwise, you're going to have to set up each person
No, this is
manually.
beautiful. I see you
Yeah,
solved my problem. Thank you very
yeah,
much. I
no
understand what
problem.
you said.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
Yes,
So I can do
perfect.
other way. I have to go to my website. I can even call the support and they
Yeah,
can
you can
explain
ask
me
them.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can definitely.
beautiful.
Yeah, and you can have them as
Wh-
hidden pages if you
What
want
else we
to.
can do it? What else we can do it? Like in this situation between November and December, what we should do it? You
Sorry,
know.
say that again. Say that
What
again.
else we can do to, I have leads sleeping in my, maybe I'm also sleeping in the house. So what activity we should do to create more activity in my CRM?
In your CRM, is definitely sending them listings. That's one thing to be doing. More activity could be, doing newsletters, things like that. You
Yeah,
can
I do that.
also, yeah, newsletters. You can also get them on your website, right? So again, if you're blogging, for example, if you have a
Mm-hmm.
blog and adding that and shooting that as part of your newsletter, like a link to the blog, things like that, where they
Mm-hmm.
can read the certain articles.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another thing would be setting these individuals up on Street Match, right? So if you know that let's say I'm a past client, or maybe you did a CMA for me, whatever it might be. Over here, you have that ability, and this is more so for the legacy users, is to add for the street match, right? So then we can add new people to our street match. If they already exist in the system, so let's go start typing and type Maida. I can see that there's already a lead called Maida. So instead of creating a new lead, I can just select that existing lead, right? Now I want to set up how I'm sending them listings. You know, is it going to match their specific, like a radius or a specific street, for example, if they live in a unique area? Is it a specific condo building? So if they have a condo unit, or is it homes within a specific radius of a house? So most commonly is this, unless of course they're in a condo, or again, if they live in a very, defined street name that is unique to the surrounding streets. Then we go next. Then we just put in the street address. So I'll just do my street. Let's just do that one there. We then can see the radius here, right? So they would then be selected to receive any listings that are within this radius, but we would select which type of home, right? So let's say it's detached homes, go next. How do we want to notify them? Do we want to send them just the new listings that come on the market in that area, both only sold listings, or both new and sold listings, right? Do you want to get notified? Yes, I want to get notified. If you want to receive all the listing emails that they get. Some people do not want to get all those emails. They go, no. Do you want to get notified if this specific address goes up for sale? Yes, I would want to know that. Yes, of course, we want to notify the lead. How often are we checking to send listings, and what time of day? And then when we finish it. Now, once we're finished, we can close the window. I'm just going to hit refresh. The newest leads are at the bottom. Okay, so we can go show 100 more. So we can see it's at the bottom. If I want to update this to any capacity, I'm going to click on the address itself. Once I click on the address, I actually now have the ability to move this radius as well. And so I can also select other properties, select the distance, save it, and away you go. So that's another way with existing leads in your database. If you're on that legacy, where you know their information, or if you do have the sold listings, offer them this and get them on the street match, right? That'll be getting them listings. You'll be able to see their activity in the system with respect to them checking things out.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah. So it's just, getting them those listings, whether it's linking them to the site, setting them up slowly but surely to receive listings themselves, right? Depends on how many leads you have in there. But that's, we definitely want to, stir the pot a little bit, get them active on there and doing stuff for sure.
Beautiful. For sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. No problem. But that's really about it for today. I appreciate you guys had a lot of questions, which is great to see for a change. But we're here every Monday. These are open Q&As. So as you're navigating and learning new things through your system, if you have any questions that come up while you're figuring things out, these are great little sessions that you don't have to commit to, obviously staying on for the whole session. You could always just ask your questions, get the answers, and leave. But, do forward any questions you have to me through email. If you're not wanting to wait, I can then, obviously, I'm not going to make you wait until the next session to learn those answers, but it also gives me some little points and direction as to what maybe to focus on, as to, where to get started when I'm showing you on how to do different things on the next session. But thanks everyone who did hop in and for participating. But we'll see you all again next Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye now.
Bye.